Hi folks, you're with us today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about this issue of entitlement. Certainly what I've noticed, and I think pretty much everyone in the West, because all across the West, the globalists are forcing mass migration all across the West. The numbers of mass migration, third world peasant immigrants is increasing almost uniformly across the board, proving conclusively that it's a centrally planned and controlled exercise. You don't get that sort of uniformity of outcome just through random chance. But the other thing too is, that confirms this is an ideological rather than any practical or sensible or reasonable exercise, is that the globalists are pushing through with this regardless of collateral damage. That is the one thing that will demonstrate to you conclusively if the pursuit is ideological rather than again, practical or sensible or reasonable or something that is organically derived. This idea, when it's ideological, the ideological fanatics will pursue their ideology irrespective of collateral damage, whether that collateral damage is millions upon millions of dead, mass murdering, mass starvation, but it doesn't matter. They will pursue it, and they perceive this ideological goal is the paradise that's always just around the next corner, and then around the next corner after that. They never actually get to it, but they believe that by killing just a few more people, or engaging in again their ideology, then they will get there, and they just haven't yet. And the globalization project is, if nothing else, it's a total ideology and absent all reasonable practicality and sensible course of action. But coming to the entitlement issue now, we've all sort of noticed, or I have anyway, and many people comment online and elsewhere, that these third world peasant migrants, these penniless migrants that have never owned anything in their life, that walk across dead bodies in the street, that have infant mortality rates of 50% and live hand to mouth, and that's that they arrive in the West and they're suddenly super entitled to all the first world goodies. They want a house. We want this, we want that, we want the fun, we want so and so, we want money, we want you just to give, while we, the peasant, take, and they don't see they should have to do anything in return. Now, this sense of entitlement to people who've known nothing. So they insist when they arrive, they've never seen a light switch before, they've never seen a flushing toilet before, they've never seen faucets and taps inside a house, and there's technology and consumer goods and things that they've never seen, paved roads, the idea that you can actually go to a doctor, and these are things they have no even comprehension of, but they know there's a lot of that stuff in the West. Now, with the third world people, whether it be from India or Pakistan or Afghanistan or really any sort of third world or lower middle ranking economy, even Ukraine, like it's insanely corrupt and so on, and you wouldn't call that a first world country. But so they arrive in the West and they look around and they see, whoa, there's every house has electric light switches, it has running water, it has flushing toilets, there are paved roads, there are hospitals, you can get to see a doctor, there are places where you can go where the government gives you money and gives you phones and gives you this and gives you that, you get accommodation provided. So they actually have arrived in paradise as far as these people are concerned, but they have a different concept of private property and ownership and sense of contract, the agreement between the parties. Now, these sort of things are uniquely Western in many ways. There are some variations upon it, in say places like Japan or whatever, but this idea of the private property, that you create wealth, private ownership, and these sorts of things, These are concepts that simply don't exist in these places where they come from. And you'll notice even after, excuse me, hundreds of years in the United States, that most, excuse me, that many people in the black community there still don't understand private ownership. They still see things from a communal ownership concept. I'm just going to take a drink of water here. So when these peasants arrive, they've never owned anything. They've got no concept of ownership. So when they arrive in the West and see all these things, which to them is staggering wealth, it's a land of plenty. It's a land where just milk and honey run in rivers down the streets. They see it from the point of view of, well, you've got so much, you have so much. Why won't you share it with us equally? Why won't you give us exactly what you have? And they don't look at the poorest white people. they tend to look at the white people who are doing pretty good and say, well, I want that too. Well, why won't you share it with me? You have it. Why won't you share it? Now, to us, that's in the West, that's, well, what are you talking about, share it? Go and get a job, earn it yourself. That's not even conceptually, they don't even grasp that in their places where they come, because they have so little. Everything is communally owned. Well, not everything maybe, but just about everything is communally owned. So if there's a little village of goat herders or something and 100 goats magically appear out of the sky, then they would share those 100 goats with the rest of the village, which may be like a wider family unit, like second and third cousins or a tribe or something like that. But they would share that. They wouldn't be presumed to be owned by one person. And whatever somebody does own, they would freely barter with other people. So it's still a communal ownership concept, because the goat herder has, I don't know, goat milk or something, and then would trade that for something else. I don't know, vegetables for the guy down the road. So even in the case where it's not communally owned, it's a full bartering system. So it's the next step to a communally owned sort of situation. So they've got no concept of contract, private ownership, and so on. They just can't even comprehend it. Even quite well-to-do Indians, born into the Brahmins, they don't understand or grasp or comprehend wealth creation. They still see wealth as a fixed pot, and in order to get more of it, you have to take it from someone else. They still see it that way. So, and I'm surprised by that, because in a philosophical sense, some of these Brahmins are quite sophisticated to talk about, abstract philosophical concepts. But when it comes to reality and things like that, they seem to be quite childish, almost infantile in their grasp of things. Anyway, so all these people that are piling into the West, or nearly all of them, just about all of them, certainly the ones coming to places like Britain and the US and Australia, they don't have any concept of this private ownership. If you like, they already walk in the door as communists, or susceptible to the communist concept of that, the people own everything and everything is shared out equally, and they perceive that, well, you have so much, why won't you share it with us? This is particularly the case with black people coming to the West, and if you won't share it with us, if we take it, there's nothing wrong with that, because you've got so much, and because you won't share it with us, then we have a right to take it from you. So really, we're not beating you up and stealing your wallet or your handbag or something like that. We're just taking what you should give us but didn't give us, and so it's not a crime. And if you end up dying of your injuries, well, really, that's your fault for not giving us that stuff in the first place, because you should have shared it with us. So this is a very different, diametrically opposed, if you like, to the Western sense of private ownership and contract and so on. And we see this as one of the big issues that caused problems in the first interaction with white people, colonial people in the colonial or the the mercantile and later the industrial era. This was the white people would say, okay, here's the contract. You agree to supply a bag of spice, and then we'll give you this bit of gold, or something, that type of thing. Or we'll give you these manufactured goods in return, like spades or shovels, axes, that sort of stuff. So they'd agree on that. But the idea of the contract agreement wasn't something that these people grasped. So that when the white folks came back with their Europeans came back with their ships ready to get the bag of spice, the people, I've changed my mind now. I want 10 axes instead of the 2 that we agreed on, no, I'll give you half the amount of spice, or I'll give you this spice that's been all spoilt by the weather, and so on. So they would just think I've got the arbitrary right to change the terms of this agreement, and so what? Who cares? Why should I be bound by that bit of paper? Why do I have to honour that agreement? And that sort of thing. And this is something that was a constant source of drama. Same with the Australian Aborigine. They had no concept of land ownership and so on. And again, the tribe shared the resources of whether it be the fish in the sea or the kangaroos that they captured, or the naturally growing food around the place. So they would share that. So when the white folk came along and say, well, look, we're going to farm this land, we're going to spend a lot of time and money cultivating it and growing crops and building fences and so on and so forth. So we need to know that we own it. So we'd like to buy this. What do you want for it? Now, to the local, the local Indigenous Aborigines, they had no concept of that, and so they would freely enter into an agreement, thinking that they could just as arbitrarily walk away from that agreement whenever it suited them, and they were quite put out when the white folks said, no, we've got this agreement here. We gave you the 10 axes or whatever it was in return for this. And because the Aborigines had no concept of land ownership, and because they were also nomadic and Stone Age, and so they wandered off, they may not come back to that spot for years. So then they come back and see that these white folks have built farms and so on. So we want that land back now, or whatever is on the land. You have to share it with us so we can take as much as we want whenever we feel like it. And the white folks said, no, you can't do that. You have to pay for it. Well, why? Why would we share everything? Why can't you share what you have with us? Why do we have to give you anything for it? The white folks say, well, we've already paid you for this land. Hey, I don't even understand what that means. and you'd think today, in the world today, that there'd be very few people left that would not understand the private contract, private ownership, wealth creation, and so on. But in fact, there's not very. It's still a very uniquely a white exercise, which is why the white countries are rich. And the other countries, where any country that doesn't accept the private contract, the private ownership, and that wealth can be created, any place in the world that does not accept or understand or comprehend that is poor. Every single one is poor. And when places like South Africa or Zimbabwe or Uganda, or any of those that were once quite well off places, and when the white folks were running it, as soon as the black people took over, they reverted to their basic sense or understanding of wealth creation, private contracts, and so on. And that's why those places are poor and always poor. So we're taking, the globalists are forcing mass immigration of people who will soon outnumber the white folks, who do not understand, again, this sense of contract. Now, it comes across to us as entitlement, but to them, they see it, well, we've got a culture of sharing. You've got so much, why won't you share it with us? And if you won't share it with us, we've got no problem in taking you down a back alley and knifing you to get it. So they see the refusal to share it as being tantamount to a slap in the face sort of thing. So this is we need to understand entitlement in that context, that they see it as, why won't you share? You have so much. And by the way, when they, I've noticed here with the Arabs, there's an Arabic guy who's through affirmative action has done rather well, and so he holds court, every once a week, where these Arab people come to him and speaking in Arabic and come begging for handouts, and he's obliged to do it as he sees it, because he should share his bounty with the tribe. And so he does, and he doesn't see anything sort of unusual in that. And he was born in Australia, for goodness sake, this guy. But this is something that now in the West, we're not converting these people to become capitalists and understand this private contract, private ownership thing. They're as resistant to this as not every single one of them, but they're particularly resistant to this. And again, even Indians, like here in Australia, they see their loyalties to, firstly, their family, and then the tribe, the village they came from, or the Indian diaspora. They perceive, they're quite open about it in many ways. They've come to the white country to take, not to give, not to share, but to take. And they will turn themselves inside out to make sure that any money they spend, unless it's in some national, supermarket chain or something, that any money they spend is only spent within the diaspora. Now, white folks a little bit different. I don't mind where I spend the money as long as I can get the service or product or whatever that I need. But to the Indians, and many others, by the way, not just the Indians, they will tear themselves to pieces to keep the money inside the diaspora. So this means these people may never integrate, or it could be even Indians that are 5 or 6 generations born in the West, they're still thinking that way. So we need to understand entitlement in that broader context, and hopefully this video will help in that understanding. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.